Part 1. You will hear a conversation between a tour organizer and a tourist. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 4. Listen carefully to the discussion and answer questions 1 to 4.
Good morning. How can I help you?
I heard that you run tours to Canada cities.
We do, yes, we run 2 per week. One of them is always at the weekend, and the other is on Tuesday.
Right. And what sort of places do you visit?
Well, we run trips to most Canada cities, but we specialize in places of historical attention, and we also run a lot of tours because visitors to Canada often request those specially. We've also started offering city walking tours, and they're trendy during the summer.
Okay, that sounds interesting. I enjoy that sort of thing. What do the tours cost?
Well, it varies depending on the trip. The further away trips and those with expensive entry fees to galleries and sites tend to be more expensive, of course. But generally speaking, they range from £15, £25 per adult. We also offer special prices if you want to book for a group of 15 or more. In that case, we can give a discount on the cost of the tour.
Right. That's good to know. I'll keep that in mind. And what about the times?
We have a fixed outline of departure and return times. We leave from here at the stipulated time. Depending on which city we're visiting, it's a relatively long time, so we don't like to cut the tours shorter than that.
Okay. And if I want to book a place on tour, how do I reserve a spot?
You have to come into the office and sign the registration sheet a minimum of 3 days before the tour date, to know we have enough people for the visit to go ahead. If there aren't enough people registered, which is mandatory, we offer a full refund, of course.
Before the end of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 5 to 10. Listen carefully to the discussion and answer questions 5 to 10.
What trip do you have scheduled for next month?
Let me look at the tour itinerary for the year. We haven't had it printed up yet as we're still waiting to confirm a couple of dates, but I can give you the provisional list.
Okay, that's fine. I want an idea of what's available to start making some plans.
Right, well, let's see then. The first one we have planned for next month is the Gary Hotel trip on July 1st. That one's only got 3 places available because we've limited arrangements. It's a day in the city with drop-off at Winnipeg Railway Museum, and an optional extra tour of the Forks National Historic Site.
Okay, that sounds like a possibility.
There's a trip to Dawson on the 10th July, and for that one, we'll arrange an extra large tour, indeed. So there are 14 places available. And, let's see. The optional extra is the Dawson Park.
Okay, I've already seen that, so that one doesn't interest me.
After that, on July 15th, it's the Quebec City tour with 18 spaces. That one's always popular because the extra option is the picture gallery. Then, it's Rideau Canal on July 20th, and the optional extra is the picture gallery. We're taking the medium-sized travel arrangement with 23 seats for that one.
Oh, good. I'd like to go to Rideau Canal. I've never been before.
And then the last one is to Sydney on July 25th.
Ah, good. I was hoping for a Sydney trip. Does it include time for shopping?
Yes, there's a free afternoon scheduled so you can use it for shopping or sightseeing, whatever you prefer. The optional visit is to Opera House. If you're keen to go, do book as soon as possible because there are only 13 seats available.
Okay, I think I'll book that straight away then.
Of course. I'll help you with that now. Oh, by the way, if you want more information about any of the trips, look in the local newspaper because we advertise there.
Okay.
You're very welcome. I hope you enjoy the trips.
That is the end of part 1. You will have half a minute to check your answers. Now, turn to part 2. Part 2. You will hear a tutor and 2 students, William and Olivia, about a case study regarding internet uses with the effect. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Listen carefully to the conversation and answer questions 11 to 15.
Right, William and Olivia, I asked you to look at the case study for internet users in different countries in 2020 as part of your exam assessment. Let's start with you, William. Having read through the case study, can you summarize the information about internet uses in the year 2020 of the particular countries?
As you have seen, the graph reveals the number of internet users in 2020, in 9 different countries. As a general trend, country E had far more internet users than the remaining countries, which is 90%. According to the graph, among the countries, country G, the highest number of internet users in 2020 was over 70%. With precisely 56% internet users, country A stood at the 3rd position in the list. Besides, 55% of users of country D were connected to this digital world, which was slightly fewer than that of internet users of country A, but notably higher than that of most other countries in the graph. Interestingly, country C, F, and I had a similar number of internet subscribers that ranged from 14% to 17%. Finally, in country H, just over 9 million citizens had access to the internet in June 2020. The lowest number of internet users in a country was from country B, where fewer than 24% of people had access to internet technology.
Before the end of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Listen carefully to the conversation and answer questions 16 to 20.
Yes, that's very informative. And Olivia, you worked with this issue, didn't you? What did the effect it had on modern civilization? Do you have any ideas?
Well, internet addiction and problematic internet use prevalence rates vary across studies and countries. With this in mind, it appears that in these 9 countries, roughly 4% of teenagers demonstrate a pathological use of the internet that affects their life and health. In contrast, 13% of teenagers engage in negative behavior when using the internet. Similar numbers are reported for adults. The study focuses on generalized internet addiction, online gaming addiction, and online gambling addiction. Clinical presentations, patient profiling, comorbidities, instruments, interventions, and prognoses are different across these 3 potential addiction disorders. The study states that the individual, cultural, and media use context significantly contributes to the experience and severity of internet addiction. The evidence points to significant damage to both individuals and society. Some of these harmful effects are information overload, having too much information to adequately understand an issue or make effective decisions. Information overload is associated with loss of control, feeling overwhelmed, reduced academic performance, and diminished job satisfaction. Studies show that information overload affects 20 to 30% of people. Extensive internet use, of social media, in particular, is correlated with loneliness and social isolation. Intimate relationships can be degraded by internet use, mainly due to viewing online bad sites. Malicious online behavior, particularly cyberbullying, cyberstalking, and online predation, affects a significant percentage of internet users. Empirical evidence suggests that internet use can have both positive and negative impacts on cognitive development, depending on the person and the circumstances. There is evidence that children's cognitive development can be damaged by prolonged internet use, including the development of memory skills, attention span, abilities for critical reasoning, language acquisition, reading, and learning abilities. More research is, however, needed to draw more reliable conclusions. Many offline communities suffer through the partial migration of human activities. Shopping, commerce, socializing, leisure activities, professional interactions, to the internet. Online communities sometimes extend offline communities and sometimes replace them. They are often inadequate replacements, however, as they do not possess some of the value of the strongest qualities of offline communities, and communities may consequently suffer from impoverished communication, incivility, and a lack of trust and commitment.
That is the end of part 2. You will have half a minute to check your answers. Now, turn to part 3. Part 3. You will hear a talk given by Mrs. Maria Cavin, about the City Hospital Trust. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 24. Now listen carefully to the talk and answer questions 21 to 24.
Welcome, everyone, to this final session to the Health Authority's Medical Orientation Program. I'm happy to welcome the chairperson of the City Hospital Trust to arrange such type of program. I'm happy to report our progress over the last few months. Well, I'm sure you'd like me to start with the good news. Most importantly, I can report on the Hospital Trust standards for last year. One of our stars is how happy the public was with our service. I am pleased to report that 2,980 letters of appreciation were received by the Trust, whilst were only 57 letters of complaint. I'm sure that we don't want any complaints at all, but I'm sure you'll feel that this is a good result. We have recently established standards in public relations to inform the public what standards to expect. These standards are now displayed in all patient areas, for instance, on notice boards. A particular concern is that of patients with special needs. One recent initiative is a policy where all patients who have hearing problems have their records marked with the ear symbol, only with their consent, of course. This will mean that anyone with impaired hearing will be aware of the problem from the onset. Now, on the general topics, the main entrance is being improved. You've all seen the plans, I'm sure. You've walked around the building work, sorry about that. Well, the piece started a few months ago. I'm thrilled to tell you that the work is progressing well and on budget and time. By next June we will have a brand new entrance hall. It will be much better than the old one.
Before the end of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 25 to 30. Now listen carefully to the talk and answer questions 25 to 30.
We've received a few suggestions, which would help patients. Interestingly, staff who can speak another language should wear a different apron to show this. We've worked on this and have now identified Spanish, French, and Arabic speakers. Soon, these staff will be sent an apron to wear to show they are bilingual. We hope to add other languages to the scheme swiftly. Now, funding, as you know. Our local group of companies is supporting HIV appeal. The public's response continues to be excellent, and many donations are received every day. Many members of the public have contacted us with funding plans. There are a lot of exciting ideas, but one perfect one is for free medical camping in the local park. I feel that a large shelter would be a reasonable precaution. Other, more traditional ideas are for sea swimming details, and the necessary sponsor forms will be available shortly. Lastly, a report on patient feedback within the specialized unit. We undertook a survey 12 months ago, questioning 30 first attendees and 50 rear tenders in the team. I'm sure you'll be happy to hear that all of these patients felt they were made welcome, and we treated them courteously at all times. A little more than 86% had their treatment explained satisfactorily, and 95% found the facilities in the day unit to be very good. A small number of areas need to be improved. One is more car parking, more toilet facilities, and better places for private discussions, but I'm happy that the survey was so positive.
That is the end of part 3. You will have half a minute to check your answers. Now, turn to part 4. Part 4. You will hear a lecture discussing professional networking. First, you will have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Networking, as a concept, has acquired what is in all truth an unjustified air of modernity. It is considered in the corporate world as an essential tool for the modern business person, as they trot round the globe drumming up business for themselves or a corporation. The concept is worn like a badge of distinction, not just in the business world. People can be divided into those who keep their knowledge and contacts, and those who are prepared to share what they know, and their friends with others. For example, an insecure person, someone who finds it difficult to share information with others, and who is unable to bring people, including friends, together, does not make a good networker. The classic networker is someone strong enough to connect different people, including close friends, with each other. For example, a business person or an academic may meet someone likely to be a valuable contact in the future. Still, at the moment, that person may benefit from meeting another associate or friend. It takes quite a secure person to bring these people together and allow a relationship to develop independently of himself. From the non-networker's point of view, such a development may be intolerable, especially if it happens outside their control. The unfortunate thing here is that the initiator of the contact, if he did but knew it, would be the one to benefit most. And why? Because, all things are equal, people move within circles, and that person has the potential of being sucked into ever-growing spheres of new contacts. It is said that, if you know 8 people, you are in touch with everyone in the world. It does not take much common sense to realize the potential for any kind of venture, as one can draw on the experience of more and more people. Unfortunately, making new contacts, business or otherwise, while it brings success, does cause problems. It enlarges the individual's world. This is, in truth, not altogether a bad thing, but it puts more pressure on the networker, through his having to maintain an ever larger circle of people. Perhaps the most convenient way out is to cull old contacts, but this would be anathema to our networker, as it would defeat the whole purpose of networking. Another problem is the reaction of friends and associates. Spreading oneself thinly gives one less time for others, who were perhaps closer to one in the past. In the workplace, this can cause tension with jealous colleagues and superiors, who might be tempted to rein in a more successful inferior. Jealousy and envy can be detrimental, if one is faced with a very insecure manager, as this person may seek to stifle someone's career or even block it completely. The answer here is to let one's superiors share in the glory, to throw them a few crumbs of comfort. It is called leadership, from the bottom. In the present business climate, companies and enterprises need to cooperate with each other, to expand. As globalization grows apace, companies need to span not just countries, but also continents. Whilst people may rail against this development, it is for the moment here to stay. Without cooperation and contacts, specialist companies will not survive for long. Computer components, for example, need to be compatible with the various machines on the market, and to achieve this, firms need to work in conjunction with others. No business or institution can afford to be an island in today's environment. Companies could go it alone in the not very distant past, but it is now more challenging to do so. The same applies in the academic world, where ideas have been jealously guarded. In recent years, the opening up of universities and colleges to the outside world has been of enormous benefit to industry and educational institutions. The conventional academic moves in a mysterious atmosphere, living a life of sometimes splendid isolation, a prisoner of their genius. The networkers, the wheeler dealers, the movers and shakers, call them what you will carry the world along. The world of the Neanderthals was shaken between 35,000 and 40,000 BC, they were outdated by Homo sapiens with the very networking skills that separate us from other animals, understanding thought abstraction and culture, which are inseparably linked to planning survival and productivity in humans. It is said the gentle will inherit the earth. But will they?
That is the end of part 4. You will have half a minute to check your answers. In your real test, you will get additional 10 minutes to transfer your answer to the answer sheet.